of sermons given by the Native American Church of the Ghost Dancers. This is the next in the series. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about the concept of eldership, elder in a church, how one is born, goes through a process of life, and then is reborn as an elder in the church. And in Native American tradition, throughout the Americas, whether it was the Mayans, the Mexica, Aztecs, Zapotecs, or the people of the Caribbean Basin, the Mississippi Valley, where have you, they had this concept. In the Mayans, they called it the concept of the Katun. And the Katun was a period of approximately 20 years. It wasn't exact, it was a little bit short of 20 years, but it had a specific concept in their calendrical system. In the Mississippi Valley and the people of the Caribbean Basin, they had a very almost the identical concept, and it was the Jupiter-Saturn cycle, the dispensation, the angular dispensation or relationship of Jupiter to Saturn. When Jupiter and Saturn repeated the same angular relationship in the sky, was almost exactly one Katun in the Mayan system. Now I'm going to show you how this works. Now this is a picture of the sky at the time of my birth. If you'll notice, Jupiter is over here in the eastern part of the sky. Saturn is in the western, very close to the horizon. The farther they get apart, the more they are to 180 degrees in the 360-degree circle, the closer they will be to the horizon at this angular dispensation relationship. If you'll notice the background stars, the Ophitokpi Hasimbish, or the Milky Way, the Hatakvalaya, the Long Man, this great river in the sky, which is called the Milky Way, or in Choctaw, the Ophitokpi Hasimbish, the white dog's tail. At the base of it is the constellation of Scorpio. What's interesting about this, I've used actually the constellation and the name for the constellation in the Aztec calendar, which was Colotl Ishayak, and that means in Nahuatl the face of the scorpion. It was exactly the same name, the same stars dispensation in the Western Hemisphere among indigenous Americans. They had the same name, same constellation as they did in the zodiac in the Eastern Hemisphere among the Chaldeans and the ancient Egyptians. How that's so is incredible. Either there was some kind of pan-dispersionist situation that was taking place, or they were plugged into a primordial tradition where they drew from the same source. In any case, they had the same. This was a very sacred constellation both to the Chaldeans and ancient Egyptians as well as to the ancient Native Americans. Now, getting back to how this eldership or this cycle of time works, the Jupiter-Saturn cycle is the angular dispensation or the angular relationship between Jupiter and Saturn. It's known as, when it returns to that angular relation, it's about 20 years later. I'm going to show you what happened on my first Katun birthday. Here it is again. Jupiter here in the eastern part of the sky, Saturn here in the western part. However, if you'll notice, the background stars have shifted. Jupiter and Saturn in the same angular relationship, but they've moved approximately 120 degrees over in the sky, and the constellation, the Aztec constellation in the top part of the sky is the stellar constellation of the ancient ball game, or the ancient ball court, the Citlali Tlachtli, the ball play of the stars, the ball game of the stars. Now, 20 years thence, again the same angular relationship is repeated again. Again, Jupiter in the eastern part of the horizon, Saturn in the western. Same angular relationship, but again, they've moved about 120 degrees over. And in the third repetition, Jupiter here, Saturn here, but if you'll notice, they've come back to that same background relationship with the stars. So after the same third cartoon cycle of these Jupiter-Saturn relationships, you enter your fourth cartoon, which is approximately 59, 60 years of age, and you're raised after 3 cosmic days as an elder. Each one of these Saturn-Jupiter constellational revolutions was considered a cosmic day to the Native Americans. 260 is the gestational cycle of man, the corn plant, and the bison, the sacred bison. And that's also the 260-day cycle or calendrical system was also the divine calendar throughout the Native Americas. 260 of these cartoon days, by the way, these cosmic days, equals 5,125 years, which is exactly the time allotment that ends from this sacred calendar on this day that people have been talking about, December 21st, 2012. It's 260 cosmic days of the Earth cycle, which will cause a gestation process in the Earth of some sort or other. We'll talk about that in some other sermons. That's a sort of a whole different sermon in and of itself. Now, 13 of these cosmic days is called a cosmic month. And there were actually, and they tend to regulate the life cycle of nation states, which is approximately 256 years. Again, that's something for a future sermon, how I'll explain that. I'll give you a couple of other examples of a couple of other elders in our church. This was the birth when the sky, a picture of the sky at the time of a member of our church, Mothli Tuklo, who is an elder in our church. And you can see her Jupiter-Saturn relationships was very similar to mine when she was born. Saturn was here, in the western part of the sky. Jupiter was here, a little closer together than mine, but her background stars were somewhat different. Her Jupiter was at the cosmic rift of the Milky Way galaxy, this dark center, this cosmic center of the Milky Way galaxy, very close to the constellation of Scorpio. You notice the Scorpio tail points to this cosmic center. And she was born in a very propitious time with her Jupiter right in that cosmic center. 20 years later, you can see again, here's Jupiter in the west, eastern part of the sky, Saturn in the western, same angular relationship, moved about 120 degrees over. Again, same concept. Jupiter here, Saturn here. About same angular relationship. Every 20 years, that same relationship appears. And the fourth time, she comes back with Jupiter here, close to the cosmic center, Saturn here. Same angular relationship, but the background stars are again the same. So they repeat in that 60-year cycle with the same background stars as the same. And she's raised at that point to eldership because they've gone through this whole 3 cosmic days, and after the 3 cosmic days, they're raised as an elder. Okay, here's another example. Isoba Abiyachi, another elder in our church. Here he is. At his birthday, Saturn and Jupiter were very close together in the sky at this point. They weren't as far apart as in the case of myself and Mothli Tuklo. 20 years later, again, the repeated relationship, Saturn and Jupiter close in the sky, conjunct almost. Again, Saturn and Jupiter conjunct. And at the 4th displacement, again, Saturn and Jupiter conjunct with the same background stars repeating themselves. And at that point, and this was on January 12, 2001, he was raised to this eldership position. Mothli